It's not very often we see our ministers and stakeholders, coming together, this time to witness the commencement of the construction in the form of a sword-turning ceremony of the long-anticipated National Diagnostic Facility. Welcome and thanks a lot for coming. I want to say that this facility is necessary because the agricultural sector remains a major employer and has retained a prominent role in government's general strategy for balanced growth. All right? To put it in simple terms, this facility is going to be the new foundation for agricultural growth upon which our stakeholders will depend for a number of services. And I'll just name a few. Soil testing or soil analysis, which is extremely necessary prior to cultivation, particularly in our case where we have planted bananas for so long and we've applied fertilizer in some cases willy-nilly for so long, and a lot of our soils are acid. It's also necessary for varietal trials. Our farmers plant a number of crops, whether it's vegetables, root crops, fruit crops, and they definitely need guidance in terms of what variety is suitable for our environment. We also need this facility for the fertilizer that we import, for the animal feed that we procure locally, regionally, and extra-regionally. And I'm sure Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, who is an egg producer himself, will agree with me. There are times when we procure feed to feed our livestock, and it's only after the fact we discover that there are significant nutritional deficiencies. By then, the farmer is already at a loss. All right? So this facility, therefore, will take the lead in terms of testing feed from different sources to alert our farmers as early as possible. It's also very important for disease surveillance, which has to be done on a continuous basis. Surveillance for crops and livestock, pests and diseases of crops and livestock. There are times when, for example, an example is that we can get, for example, a market to export a crop, say pineapples, for example, to Martinique. The importing country on the other side can ask for a pest and disease list. And if you don't have a reliable pest and disease list to inform them as to what diseases we have here that can probably affect pineapples or related crops in Martinique, you can end up losing the market. There's another situation that we can look at, the Veterinary and Livestock Services Division, surveillance for zoonotic diseases, diseases that can affect both man and animals, such as tuberculosis, brucellosis, and the list goes on. There is an opportunity for us to work closely with the Ministry of Health. And if, for example, surveillance is being done and we can find out that these diseases are prevalent in animals, for example, tuberculosis can affect cattle, can affect birds, can affect human beings, and vice versa, then we can alert the Ministry of Health and we can work closely with them. We also import a lot of meat, for example, from the US, from Australia, the UK, New Zealand, and you hear a lot of talk, particularly with chicken, that there might be hormonal residues or pharmaceutical residues such as antibiotics. Saying it is one thing, but you have to back it up with scientific evidence. Last but not least, I want to say that there's going to be a lot of collaboration with the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards. There will be 2 metrology laboratories managed by the Bureau of Standards and the associated offices at the facility. And for this, I'm going to take the opportunity to invite Mr. Anselm Gittens, who is the head of metrology at the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards, to make remarks. Mr. Gittens, you're invited to the podium.
Protocol has been established. I want to apologize, first of all, on behalf of our director, Dr. Maccabi Walcott, who is unavoidably absent due to a prior another engagement. Today's ceremony is the culmination of years of planning, discussion, and meetings The St. Lucia Bureau of Standards has been an active participant in this process. And as most of you know, space has been allocated in this National Diagnostic facility for the Bureau's metrology laboratory, metrology being the science of measurement. There are synergies to be derived from having several laboratories which are critical to national development in one facility. And the metrology lab has the capacity to provide calibration services for some of the equipment which will be used by the other labs at the facility. It seems that the Bureau of Standards was destined to have a presence at this facility in this particular location, because in 2003-2004, when a permanent home was being considered for the Bureau of Standards, we had a site visit to this very area, but instead we ended up at the Bize Industrial Estate. I'll be very brief. It said all's well that ends well. So we are indeed happy to be part of this historic event, which will be a new milestone in our development of quality infrastructure. I thank you.
Nelson Mandela once said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." This quote is an apt description of the process that has led up to this morning's sword-turning ceremony. It is the triumphant culmination of years of engagement with the European Union by the Office of the National Authorizing Officer and the Government of St. Lucia. It is an example of stellar cooperation between the Office of the NEO and the implementing partners, in this case, the Ministry of Agriculture and the Banana Industry Trust. Most importantly, it provides evidence of the strong commitment of public sector employees demonstrated through the exercise of strategy, patience, and long, arduous labor. Ladies and gentlemen, today I speak on behalf of colleagues from the delegation at the European Union to the Eastern Caribbean countries, OECS and CARIFORUM. They have asked that I share with you the particular institutional arrangements which have allowed for commitment of 100% of the resources under the BAM. Indeed, I am very pleased to report that the delegation is particularly impressed with the excellent effort made by the Office of the NAO St. Lucia in this significant achievement. The Agricultural Transformation Program is spearheaded by a project steering committee, which is chaired by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture. Let's pause to recognize the Honorable Prime Minister. The steering committee comprises all relevant stakeholders, including the private sector. There is also a small project monitoring committee, which consists of staff from the Office of the NEO, the Special Projects Coordinator, Mr. Compton, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Banana Industry Trust. This team meets weekly to monitor and drive the process of procurement and implementation. These working teams have been perfected for a lengthy and engaging process of trial and error. At the first stage of the BAM implementation, payments were made for only 2 small contracts. As time progressed, a further 2 tenders were launched. However, the bids were in excess of the available budgets. Budgetary modifications became a necessary course of action for procurement to become successful. Thus, only 4% of funds were committed during the first phase of the BAM. Progress under the second phase was encouraging but suffered delays, most significant of which was the designs for the construction of the diagnostic facility. After a year of negotiations with the contracted service supplier, the design of the facility had to be retendered and included as an item to be implemented on the future phase of the BAM program. Along the way, reduced engagement with beneficiaries led to an atmosphere of concern regarding lack of evidence of the delivery of the promised works, supplies, and services. Visibility was low, leading some to question the probability of success of the program. Internally, within the Office of the NEO, all challenges intensified and new challenges emerged. Constant reworking of tender documents at the request of the delegation and failed tender procedures led to temperament cracks. We lost a highly committed colleague, and total team experience on EDF procedures was very low. It was time to alter the strategy. Mohammed would have to go to the mountain. First, instead of spending weeks moving tender documents back and forth between the delegation in Barbados and the Office of the NEO in St. Lucia, the staff engaged directly on site in Barbados with the delegation, resulting in much needed training and reduced processing time for approval of tender documents. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Dominica soon learnt from this strategy, resulting in very high commitment rates for their BAM programs as well. A strong cooperative relationship emerged between the Green Economy team at the delegation and the Office of the NAO St. Lucia. There was constant engagement at the technical level as well as at the level of the NAO to ensure that problems were resolved quickly. It is this partnership that has yielded a 100% commitment rate for the BAM. You could clap. Further, it is this spirit of cooperation that will ensure successful implementation of the BAM. Assuming that these relationships are maintained, in 22 months, we will be back here celebrating the completion of this facility as well as the completion of other BAM projects. The delegation of the European Union thanks St. Lucia for the efforts towards what has been achieved so far and looks forward to working with stakeholders in St. Lucia to complete programs under the BAM. Moreover, the delegation is committed to working with St. Lucia and other donors in implementing reforms and policy actions that will further transform the agricultural sector in St. Lucia. I wish everyone an enjoyable day. Thank you very much.
It gives me pleasure to stand here today to be part of this very important ceremony. It may be just a sword turning ceremony, but it marks a very special point in where we want to go as a country and the things we need to see happening. I'm the minister responsible for economic development, but I have a keen interest in what happens in the agricultural sector for two reasons. The areas that I represent have been over the years areas that are high producers in the agricultural sector, whether it be in poultry, in bananas, and in other root crops. All the communities that I represent have some form of agriculture. Also, as a country, where we need to go with our economic development, agriculture plays a very critical role. While we have seen a shift in the economy moving from an agricultural-based economy to a service-based economy, the rural communities in St. Lucia continue to depend heavily on the agricultural sector as a means of livelihood. In the area of job creation, we know that if we can get more people engaged in the agricultural sector, that we can reduce the level of unemployment considerably just within this sector. But we have seen the changes, and it is, I note the words of the PS and the NAO authorizing officer, Ms. Tracy Polius, in that as of November last year, only 28% of the BAM money had been committed for implementation. Now this says a lot about the rush towards the end to be able to utilize resources that were readily available. And I must say that this is a reflection on us as a country, that things are available for use, and the bureaucracy of the system added to a high level of indecision in the process reduces a lot of things that we could have accomplished. And I'm hoping that in the coming months and years, that there would be a different approach, especially to see to it that these projects are implemented in a timely manner. I know there are challenges when you deal with some of these institutions and all of the requirements to be met. But it must never be pointed that St. Lucia as a country is the one failing to meet the obligations in order to access all of these resources that are available to us. And so, while only 28% was committed as of November, last minute, there had to be a rush to commit all the funds available on the BAB. And I compliment the staff for seeing to it that it happened, that all of it could have been committed and not having to face a situation where some of it could not be utilized. Now, focusing on this facility, agriculture is taking a different trend now, and we cannot do things the way we used to anymore. And that's why I believe that this lab is going to be very important in moving forward and reshaping what we can produce in the agricultural sector. I must sound a couple of areas of warning that I want us to pay attention to. That, and I'm saying this, the Bureau of Standards and the various persons who would be responsible, that no undue influence should take place in the results of testings done. Because in the past, people of influence have been able to alter the actual outcome of what results should be. And if we are going to be serious about bringing agriculture to where it should be, the test results should be what they reveal and not what somebody else wants it to reveal. This is very critical in moving forward, because we see in other sectors, one set of measurements would be used for this person, and another person in a similar situation, a different set of measurements would be used to make a determination as to what the final outcome is. And we see this in a number of areas. Based on who you are, would be the test results that you get. I trust my Minister of Agriculture in the person of Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, that when he operates in his capacity as minister, that the facilities under his watch would give us the desired results that is equitable for all. Because the standards of measurement in this country must be the same across the board for all parties concerned. That is very important for the agricultural sector. And I'm saying this on the background that you see one person with a pig pen in an area and nobody seems to bother them. And then there's somebody in close proximity that everybody bothers. And you see the same thing with the chicken producers. And you see, you go across the board. We must bring a level of equitability to what we are doing so that everybody will feel that they are treated fairly. That when this person asks for approval and they are turned down, that somebody else asking for approval in the same area will meet the same results of being turned down. And we need this, especially with all of the diseases that we see developing in the agricultural sector. I think this diagnostic center or lab will help us reshape this agricultural sector and set it on the right path, so that the pesticides being used, the chemicals being used, the feed and whatever we are using would bring a final product that our population and the visitors to this country will feel comfortable to use anything and safe to use anything produced in the agricultural sector. So I am very pleased to be a part of this ceremony today and to see the commencement of the establishment of this building. But I want it to be beyond the walls of the building, that the services provided in there would take agriculture to the next level in St. Lucia. Thank you very much.
In 2010, when we were approached by the EU to start to develop programs where we, as a ministry and as a country, could benefit with the further development of the agricultural sector. And in fact, yes, I remembered when we prepared the document, for 62 million EC dollars. That's correct. Of course, at the time, in 2010, banana production was at a level that would allow us to realize that contribution from the EU. But unfortunately, in 2014, when the agreement was signed between the then government and the EU, banana production went down so low that we realized the agreement was only $32 million. And I was told yesterday, because of the decline in the euros, it's now $29 million. But we have to work with what we have. So it's my distinct pleasure to welcome you all here today as minister to this sword-turning ceremony. And it's very interesting because when I was the Minister of Agriculture, the site we're now going to construct, that facility, was earmarked to Windfresh to construct its office. And the plan at the time was to refurbish the lab in Roseau for that type of facility. But things have changed, and we are here today. And I want to say that, and I agree with you, Mr. Master of Ceremonies, that the idea for that facility came when I had the opportunity of working at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College as the farm manager. And what we experienced there at the time was that our eggs were cracking, the shells were cracking. And Sir Arthur Lewis had to send the feed that were being fed to the birds all the way to Trinidad to be tested. And I said, if we are, as a country, really serious about agricultural development, I believe a facility like that is critical for us and is necessary to give support to our farmers. And that's where the idea came from as far as my recommendation for that type of facility. And I'm happy, after so many years, we are here today. And like you said, I'm the one who started it, and I'm the one here with, of course, my Prime Minister and colleagues who gave support at the time when we went to Cabinet to convince them that we should have that facility. I will not go into the details because you have done that, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. But I want to say that as a government, I'm a bit disappointed that not much more resources was pumped into supporting our banana farmers. And I recall when, in 2010-11, when I was discussing with our farmers that program, I recall the banana farmers, and I've seen some of them here today, were chastising me and telling me, look, all the resources, all the $62 million should go into bananas. And I remember saying that, look, we need to diversify, we need to encourage our farmers outside of bananas. But unfortunately, apart from support to Black Sikatoka, little is been done to support our banana farmers. And I want to say, like those of us who have worked with me before, I'm not happy about this. Because as a government, and I can say so because my Prime Minister is there and other ministers are there, the banana industry, and I want to make it clear, the banana industry is critical for our agricultural development. It's critical. And we're going to do all we can within our powers to see to it that we can bring back production to a level that can impact positively on the rural communities. So those of us here who are involved in developing agricultural programs and giving support to the ministry, I just want to at least clear the air on this. So moving forward, we need to give support to our banana farmers. Whilst I have no problems, ladies and gentlemen, with regards to the other subsectors, but we believe that there is a need to give support to our banana farmers. I want to say that I'm happy that after so many years that this facility will be realized. And I want to recognize the effort of all those that have contributed to making this a reality. I'm aware it has been very challenging. I'm also aware of the challenges that you face from time to time dealing with the EU. But based on feedback that I have received, St. Lucia is doing very well when it comes to the BAM. And I want to compliment all those who were involved in making this a reality. But putting on infrastructure is one thing. The other thing is a question of managing the infrastructure. And I'm happy that my Prime Minister is here, because we need to do an assessment as to the staffing, because we can have the facility and we don't have the staff to complement the operation of the facility. It makes no use. All right? So during the weeks and months, I would want to engage the ministry as to the staffing and the requirements, so at least we can make preparation to train those persons that are required. So when the facility is finished in the next 20 months, we will not have to wait another 2 years like we've seen happening with other facilities before it gets into operation. So, Mr. Prime Minister, I'm putting you on the alert. I want to say thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the finalization of this project. And like you said, a project that will impact positively on the agricultural sector in St. Lucia. Thank you very much.